Today's an update and a report on one of the big neighborhood improvement initiatives that we've had going for a couple of years now, and that is the major street tree planting initiative that we started a couple of years ago. I am a big believer in street trees. Street trees are probably the most cost-effective way to improve a neighborhood that there is out there. Street trees do a lot to benefit neighborhoods. They clean the air, they tend to calm traffic, they tend to beautify neighborhoods, and wherever they're planted, they raise property values. It is in general terms, a very low dollar investment with a very big return. Everybody loves trees. I say everybody, except for my grandmother who lives around the corner, who had the city remove her trees 20 years ago. With the exception of my grandmother, everybody loves trees, and as do I. And so we have taken it upon ourselves in the last couple of years to aggressively pursue a tree planting initiative largely through the Department of Public Infrastructure and through private developers who come to the city. If you're building something in the city now, as a private developer, we expect you to plant trees, and oftentimes lots of them, because we believe that greening New Bedford will make a better New Bedford. So when we've accomplished a lot, as of today, during my time in office, the city has planted some 1,318 trees. That's as of yesterday. That's a major accomplishment for our city. It takes a lot to do what we're doing, and there aren't too many cities that can pull off, cities of our size that can pull off what we're pulling off, and that is planting 500 trees a year every year. We are on track this year to hit that goal, and we'll keep pushing it ahead, because we believe from the south end to the north end and everywhere in between, every neighborhood can benefit from tree plantings. And we do it, and I'll have Mary and Chance talk a little bit about the details of our planning efforts. But what I've heard from residents across the city, of every political stripe, from every neighborhood, is that they really love to see the trees that we've been planting. We've done it everywhere, from Brock Avenue, where there's been a major tree planting, to the downtown, to Allen Street, to Rockdale Avenue, to Acushnet Avenue, and many segments of Acushnet Avenue, and here at Tarleton Hill Road in the north end. So we're covering every point in the city. We're focusing on main roads, but we also have an adopt-a-tree program for people out there, and this is a good reminder of the availability of street trees for everybody in the city. And so I encourage people to come on out and take advantage of that program, because we can make it happen. I ended up, by the way, 4 years ago not doing the adopt-a-tree program. I don't know if Ron knows this. I went out and bought my own tree, and then spent 4 hours digging without the aid of a backhoe and removing the roots from the previous tree. And that was no fun. We'll actually make it easier on residents and have all the equipment. We'll stick it in the ground, and we'll give you some help in maintaining the trees, because there is, especially in the first year, some management requirements that are necessary to make the tree healthy in the long run. So with all that, I just want to say thanks to the guys at DPI for doing a great job. You know, as you all know, I push them really hard, as Ron and Zeb will tell you. I push these guys really hard because I know they can make things happen, and they do, all over the city, whether it's road construction projects or masonry or park projects, or the stuff that we're about to announce that we just did on the Hurricane Dike, and certainly street trees. These guys are getting it done, and the city's benefiting from it. I want to thank Chance Perks, who's in charge of our tree planting operation. He's the city's arborist. It's not just anybody who can do this. You need to be trained, you need to have know-how, you need to have a sense of the city to make it happen, as well as Mary Repose, our Parks and Recreation Director, who happens also to have a background in landscape design and architecture, and brings that sensibility to tree plantings and all that we do in parks. So I'm going to ask Ron to talk a little bit about the effort, then Chance, and then Mary, and then we'll take your questions. Ron.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. We're public infrastructure, and we put water in the ground, sewer in the ground, drainage in the ground, sidewalks, curbing, and we do streets. But the mayor's program with tree planting is like the icing on the cake. When you plant trees on a street, you create a neighborhood, and it sort of changes that aesthetics of every area. When I was a young man, I remember the city had canopy streets almost everywhere. And a lot of that's gone over the years, and it's gone because of lack of effort and neglect and disease and things like that. And you know, I applaud the mayor. This is the first administration I've worked for that has taken this very seriously. You know, and it strikes a balance between the urban environment and the neighborhoods that we're trying to create. And you know, I'm very, very proud and happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, and you know, Ron brought up a great point. One of the primary benefits of street trees is that they absorb groundwater. We have a big groundwater, wastewater problem in the city because of our old infrastructure, and the more water that we can keep out of the wastewater system in the city, the less we'll have to spend on keeping up wastewater infrastructure, and it does translate into the millions of dollars. So that's yet another benefit. Planting street trees, it truly is a no-brainer, and we have a very qualified guy who's the city arborist who does this thing as his primary job and is doing a great job at it, and that's Chance Perks. Chance, come on up.
Thanks, Mayor Mitchell. Yeah, the real underpinning of this street tree program, looking forward, you know, a big part of that, and as Ron said, and I think he said it excellent, is striking a balance. You know, trees help to walk that line between our environmental areas and our urban areas, bring them together to work together. So with our trees, the main things we focus on is diversity. Diversity at every level of anything, any context that you want to identify. Diversity is really a strong point, and so with that, it's a species of trees, not planting just one species. Different sizes does also help, and then also doing that across the city, really important. So diversity is really strong, and the benefits that the trees bring is, you know, I think really going to be realized in the years to come. Thinking ahead, you know, understanding that the efforts that we're all making here today is really for the next generation. It really is. Thanks again.
Yep, thanks, Chance. And that's a really great point too, because this is as with everything that we do in the city, it's all about the long run. It's all about setting the city up well so that we can have a high quality of life, not just this year, not just next year, but 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and 50 years from now. And I hope, you know, 50 years from now, people look back and say, you know what, we've got a great canopy of trees in the city. It's really beautiful. It really makes a difference. Those guys 50 years ago knew what they were doing. So, and one of those persons who knows what she's doing is Mary Raposa, who is, as I said, our Parks Director, and who plays a real important role in our tree planting program. Mary, come on up.
Thank you. It's always such a joy to be able to put lots of trees in. That's one of my favorite things to do. And in addition to all the benefits that people have mentioned, this canopy is really going to help in summers to keep the heat island effect in the urban areas down, because it will be providing shade over a lot of our hard surfaces in the city. And this tree planting really is, you know, it's a public effort, but it's also a private effort. We're hoping that you will come out and adopt the street trees that are coming, you know, in front of your homes and along your streets. There is care, there's going to be long-term care that's going to be required for these street trees. They're going to need water. It'd be great if people would help with the weeding. So, you know, really take pride in the trees that you're seeing come onto your streets, and help out to make sure that they have that long life that we're all moving forward for the next generation. The public-private options also go to the Adopt a Street Tree program that the mayor mentioned earlier. That's a program where you can call DPI, ask them to put a tree on your street. You pay wholesale for a tree. You get to select the type of tree from a list of trees that are available, and you can have a tree in front of your house. There's other private collaborations that are happening with the city. Just yesterday we put 7 trees in at Griffin Street Cemetery. That was led by NB Beautiful, who solicited the funds and wrote grants so that they could help with this effort to make sure that we're putting lots of trees in our public spaces.
All right, thank you, Mary. All right, we're gonna put one of these trees in a second, but if there are any questions, we'll take them now. Anybody? Covered it all.
How much has the city spent on trees, or are these all donated?
I don't have that number, Jim. I can tell you so that in general, the trees you see here are roughly about $300 a piece.
Yeah, we get them wholesale for about 200.
Yeah, okay. So we get about $200 a piece. And see, as those trees grow out, it'll muffle the sound of large vehicles like that. So that's what we're hoping for. So about $200 a piece. We use money from a number of different sources. Some come from the DPI materials budget. We've gotten a number of grants, state as well as foundational grants. We use some wastewater money as well because, as I said, these are wastewater facilities in a way, each tree itself. And so that helps really keep water out of the wastewater system. So, you know, it's sort of a hodgepodge of funding sources that we do with, but each one's about $200. And that doesn't, you know, what I'm not counting here are the trees that have been privately planted over the last few years. So, you know, just pick a project, private project. Cumberland Farms, where the Shawmut Diner used to be, lots of trees planted there. We, as part of the permitting process, required them to plant street trees. So that happens. That's happening all over the place now. Anything, Mike? You good? All right, let's plant.
What's really key is making sure that basket comes off. That metal basket, yeah, you can stand that right up. If that metal basket doesn't come off, it can restrict the roots in years to come. We always want to make sure the trees are actually slightly high. So if you're going around the city and you see this is actually really important. This part of the tree, you want to see the top of these big roots. If you're not seeing those in trees, whether it's in a yard or an urban area or even in the forest, you should see these, what we call buttress roots. You actually want the tree slightly high. That's what nature is designed. That's what we're just trying to mimic that. Also, the beauty with the young trees, I guess much like us kids, we're resilient. They can take a beating when they're young, and as long as they get the basic things needed, that's perfect. I'll stand that up straight. So yeah, we're just making a nice soupy mixture for those young roots. It allows a lot of the larger air bubbles to come out of the soil. We want small air space. You know, it's nice if the soil is gravelly. I get nervous when we're working in like really, really tight soils. I know downtown is pretty rough because the soils had a lot of small particles in them. That's when we get nervous. It's almost like growing in cement, so the roots are going to have a tough time kind of penetrating through that. Whereas here, this actually works pretty nice.
I love trees.
Very cool. Yeah, my crew does a great job. They've gone above and beyond to learn, you know, the real fine-tuned techniques. You know, we're not just planters. They're really becoming tree care professionals, which is excellent. They're paying attention to the nerdy stuff that I'm always throwing at them, the lingo, the basic details. You know, focusing on the soil biology. They're really into that. None of us could do it without our crew.
All right, I have a question. Is this a sycamore or a London plane tree?
Excellent question. Excellent question.
Sycamore or London plane tree?
That's a sycamore.
Is it a sycamore?
So when residents ask me, I tell them a sycamore. I'm not gonna lie, but I do lie to them because it's a very tough thing to discern what kind of tree it is. These are technically London plane trees. They're technically London planes. You set them up because I do. I tell everybody they're sycamores because that's the native species that we all want around here. But there's a disease that was introduced to America that really hurts sycamores, especially when they're in urban areas, because they typically want to live in swampy floodplains. So London planes, they're almost identical. You have to be a real. I mean, I have a tough time discerning what tree is what. One of the only things that gives them away is actually when they go to fruit. They're little seed pods. There's little differences between the sycamore and the London plane, so you'd have to have a micrometer to know the difference.
So you gotta give me a little latitude.
Absolutely. But I do. I tell people all the time these are sycamores. You know, all along Brock Ave. Now, this is a lot of the ones along Brock Ave were planted before our understanding about anthracnose, the disease. And so some are sycamores. So if we walk down there like, Chance, what's that? I'd be like, ooh, that's a tough one.
Right.
We you know, depending on the tree itself, yeah, it'd be tough to discern.
Right.
Excellent job, guys. So yeah, right
Nice
now,
job,
so
guys. Nice job.
we'll take all the excess soil away, you know, make sure everything's straight, and then we'll come back in, mulch it, give it another little dose of water, and then we stake them. Typically, you don't need to stake trees, especially when you plant the correct size, but because of little kids are one of our worst, you know, culprits on our tree health here when they grab onto them and such. So we'll stake them. It kind of is a visual barrier, you know, like, hey, this thing is fragile. Let's give it a little bit of care, and yeah, a little bit of mulch, and then we're off.
Thanks, man. That was really cool. Nice work.